As a powerlifter, should you be training using a percentage-based program, or should you be using a RPE-based program? Or is there even a way that you can implement both of them into one program? Well, in this video, we're going to break down the pros and cons of each one so you can figure out which one is best for you and how you can apply it to your training. So in the world of powerlifting, there's pretty much two ways right now that people are programming, which is going to be either percentage-based training or RPE-based training. So when it comes to percentage-based training, what you're doing is you're taking a training max and running a percentage of that training max for your whatever protocol. So for example, if your training max is 100 and then you want to do sets of 8 and you take 70% of that 100, then you are doing sets of 8 at 70 pounds. So you're using a percentage of that training max to come up with a set prescribed weight for that session and then doing the sets and reps at that weight. When you're using RPE-based training, you're using what's RPE, which is rate of perceived exertion. So you're basically using how difficult a certain weight for a certain protocol is for you and adjusting on that day based on how you're feeling. So if you're feeling good and things are feeling lighter, the effort's feeling lower, then you can go to a heavier weight to reach the effort that you're trying to reach. And the flip side, if things are feeling harder that day and efforts are higher than normal, then you can bring the weights down so you're hitting the effort level that you're prescribing for that day. So again, maybe you had a prescribed sets of 8 at 70 pounds, but if it's supposed to be, let's say, RP 8, and as you're warming up, you're feeling like things are harder and it's going to be like an RP 9, then you may bring it down to 65 or 60 pounds and do that for your sets of 8 in order to get to RP 8. Or if things are feeling very easy and you feel like you've gotten stronger and progressed past that 1 rep max, then maybe 70 pounds is too easy for you. And as you're warming up, you figure, okay, I can go up to 75 pounds or 80 pounds, do my sets of 8 there and hit my RP 8. So when you're using percentage-based training, the weight is a prescribed weight. It's very much set in stone, which can be good and bad. So the bad part is that it doesn't let you adjust that day of based, again, if you're feeling good or if you're feeling bad. You're assuming that you're feeling normal that day, and so you're going to do the prescribed weight that's going to be for a normal day. But on the flip side, that can be positive for some people mentally. Some people want to adjust the weight too much, and maybe they inaccurately are adjusting the weight based on how they're feeling or how they think they're feeling as they're warming up, versus just going in and saying, this is the weight I have to do no matter what. I'm going to find a way to hit this weight and be able to execute whatever the program is, can get them to push a little bit harder than they thought and be able to do a weight maybe on a bad day they thought they were going to pull the weight down. Another benefit to percentage-based training is going to be that you don't have to be good at rating your own RPEs. So for a lot of beginners and even some intermediates, they're not good at rating RPEs. There's even studies out there that show that lifters are not the best at rating their own RPEs. It's hard while you're underneath the weight to gauge difficulty. And then also athletes have biases towards themselves and may rate lower for certain exercises and how they're feeling, or may rate higher if they don't want to do a certain exercise or go up to a certain weight. So you need to be very accurate at assessing your RPE if you're doing RPE-based training. But if you're not good at accurately assessing RPE, then that's a benefit of percentage-based training because you don't have to worry about that. You just go and do the prescribed weight. With that, percentage-based training can be good if you have a true max that you know for that exercise, whether it's the competition lift or a variation. If you know what your max is for the competition squat and it's recent, let's say you just did a meet, then running percentages off of that's going to be very accurate because it is what your current strength level is at. So then you can use that true reset max to then run the training off of and use a chart to figure out, okay, this RPE at this percentage will be this many reps, or this many reps at this RPE will be this percentage, and have a accurate assessment of what you're capable of on that day. And then the same thing for variation. If you know your max on a variation, or if you know your strength on that variation in comparison to your competition lift, then again, you can run the percentages off of that variation and be very accurate of what you're capable of. On the flip side, if you don't know where your max is, let's say you've progressed from your last competition, or you've taken a lot of time off and you don't know where your strength is at, or you're doing a variation you've never done before and you don't know what your strength is on that variation, then that's where RPE-based training can come handy, because you can then start at a lower RPE and kind of build up and just add weight to the bar and figure out what your strength is on the exercise for a particular rep protocol. So you're not gonna be able to run a percentage because you don't know what the max is. Instead, you have to just build up and maybe go RPE 6, RPE 7, RPE 8 at a certain rep range, adding more weight and figuring out what you're capable of. And then you can start estimating your 1 rep max off of that. Percentage-based training is obviously going to be better as well for lifters who are very consistent with their training and very consistent with their life. So every day is kind of average for them as far as life stress and their training stress and their nutrition, everything like that. And so they're not gonna have these big fluctuations up and down on their strength day to day. On the flip side, RPE training is going to be very good for people who do have those a lot of fluctuations. If, for example, like during the week, they have a very stressful job and they're more fatigued when they go into their training in the afternoon. And so then they may not always be at their best for those days, but maybe on the weekends on the flip side, they get a lot of rest and they're able to overperform than what they're normally capable of. So with that kind of variation, or if you're someone who has exams for school, or if you have a job where sometimes you have to work a night shift and you have that kind of fluctuation or variation when it comes to your life, when it comes to how good you are, when it comes to a specific training session or a training week, then RP can let you adjust. For those good days, you push it higher. For those bad days, you pull back and save yourself for another day. Now, these two types of training aren't necessarily independent. It's not like, oh, I can only choose percentage based or I can only choose RPE based and I have to keep that for the entire training cycle. You can put these two training styles together to basically make your programming better in different ways. So one way you can do it is you can give someone an RPE or give yourself an RPE, but also give yourself a weight or a weight range of what it should be. So you can say, okay, it's going to be RP 7 on an average day. This is what the weight is going to be, to give yourself a guide. Okay, this is what a normal day is going to be. But if I'm feeling better, I might be able to go above this weight. Or if I'm feeling bad, I can go below this weight. You can also give a range rather than giving a set weight. So you can give the range to include, okay, if I'm feeling good, I might be able to do 5 or 10 pounds more. If I'm feeling bad, I might have to do 10 or 15 pounds less. So you can give that weight range and the RPE in order to, again, have a guide of, hey, this is how I'm going to get to this RPE, is going to fall somewhere in this weight range. And then you can warm up and kind of figure out, based on how the warm-ups feel, where in that weight range you're going to pick. So you can put them together to get you to the right weight. Another thing is, within a session for different exercises, you may have some that are percentage based and some that are RPE based. So again, if you have like a competition squat, you know what your max is on competition squat, you know you're very normal and standard and consistent when it comes to your competition squat, you can do percentage on that. Then let's say afterwards you want to do a front squat and you haven't done a front squat in 4 months since the beginning of your last training cycle, you don't know where your max is on that, you can do RPE based on that. Or even your accessory work. Let's say you rotate your accessory work as far as if you're doing skull crushers or if you're doing tricep extensions on a cable machine and you go to different gyms and they have different handles and different cables which show different strength, then you can use RPE based training for the accessory work to figure out what your strength is on that specific exercise with that specific setup, with your specific rep protocol on that day. So if you're using some kind of cable that's a little bit easier and a handle that's a little bit easier, you can push the weight a little bit more on the accessory exercise. If you go to a new gym and the setup is different and the machines feel more difficult, then you can always adjust down. You can also do this as far as different sessions within a week. So again, if you have certain sessions where you're doing the competition lifts and you know your training maxes on those, you can do those percentage based. And then if you have other sessions that are variations and you're testing out some new variations and you don't know what your strength is on those, then you could do RPE based. You can also do, if you know certain days, like I said, at weekends, you're really good, very consistent, and you know what your maxes are and everything like that, you can do this percentage based. If during the week you don't know which day you're going to train on based on your work schedule and family, everything like that, so you might have to shift some days and the training time, and you may have to, speed up some sessions, you're not feeling good and those kind of things, then you can go RPE based. So there's multiple ways of how you can implement both of these in order to, again, get to the goal of putting the right weight on the bar in order to get the adaptation that you want for that specific session, for that specific week, for the total training cycle, and get you to where you want overall. You can also start off more with percentage-based training because you may not be as experienced with RPE, and over time start building and practicing rating your RPE, getting better and better at it, and transition. So you may start off with percentage-based training only and then start bringing in some RPE training, and then eventually over the years transitioning into fully RPE-based training. So you don't have to stick with just one the entire time. You can learn how to assess RPE better, become more experienced, and transition yourself from percentage-based training to the RPE-based training. So if this video helped you out, be sure to rep that like button for 1 rep to help me out and get this video out to more people. And if you want to learn more, you can check out these videos here or have other ones linked down in the description below, and I'll catch you in that next video.